All right, thank you. So the Office of OELL teamed up with the Office of Special Education to build out the social emotional lessons that you'll be able to use during the first month of school. We generated these lessons based on grade spans. There, here is our task force of members and their focus areas. This team brings a wealth of knowledge from early learning and literacy and special education, and many years of experience in content and social emotional learning. And today you are participating in the third and fourth grade webinar. And my name is Sonia Archie, and my partner Wendy is out on medical leave today. So as we meet together today, please remember the ABCs of a webinar participation. Please mute your devices. Please mute your devices. Use the chat box. Use the hand signal buttons. While the presenter is speaking, there'll be a team member who will answer the questions you ask in the chat box. So is everyone hearing me well? And can you see the webinar screen?
We are good to go, Sonia.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Sonia, this is Wendy Burgess. Everything is looking good and you're sounding great.
Thank you, Wendy. Wendy, can you record?
I've just hit record for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I'd like you to take a moment here and read this quote from the Aspen Institute. So educating the whole learner cannot be reduced to a simple set of policies or proposals. It is instead a mindset that should inform the entire educational enterprise. So what is social emotional learning? So we're going to begin today by defining social emotional learning. So as you're all aware, our students have been at home in family situations during this time of the pandemic. This time of isolation and is something that we as educators, educational leaders, need to be prepared to address in our schools and classrooms. Please read the definition, and I'd like you to create a hashtag and drop it in the drop box, the chat box, relating to this definition in your future work as a educational leader. So the foundation we know of the upper grades in elementary start as early as pre-K and kindergartner. So I'd be remiss if we didn't take a moment to look at the profile of the kindergartner and what's required, where we'd like students to be ready for kindergarten. So take a moment and read through the profile of the ready kindergartner. So the South Carolina profile of a Ready Kindergarten describes the physical, cognitive, social, and emotional signs of school readiness. Because each child develops differently, each child will be ready in different ways. That is why school and educators must also be ready, prepared to meet the individual needs of students at all levels of readiness, and providing whatever support and services are needed for a quality kindergarten experience. So now let's take a look at the profile of a South Carolina graduate. So the profile of a South Carolina graduate supports social emotional learning. So let's take a moment and let's read through the stars here. So for the profile of a South Carolina graduate, we want to develop world-class skills in our students. We want them to be creative and innovative. We want to build their critical thinking and problem solving. We want them to be able to collaborate as teams in the real world, to ultimately have a life and a career that has integrity, self-direction, a global perspective, perseverance, work ethic, and interpersonal skills. This is the goal. Why do we need social emotional learning? Well, we need social emotional learning because it engages the social, emotional, and cognitive capabilities of our students. And in social emotional learning, they are all intertwined so that they develop the experience of our students. So engaging in effective social and emotional learning should inform all programs and practices. The importance of social emotional learning is that it provides better academic performance, achievement scores, an average of 11 percentile points higher than students who did not receive social emotional instruction. SEL instruction improved attitudes and behaviors. Students had greater motivation to learn, deeper commitment to school, increased time devoted to schoolwork, and better classroom behavior. Attending to students' social emotional learning also helps students exhibit fewer negative behaviors. It decreased disruptive class behaviors, noncompliance, aggression, delinquent acts, and disciplinary referrals. And it also reduced their emotional distress. So when students are engaged in social emotional learning, there are fewer reports of student depression, anxiety, stress, or social withdrawal. So let's take a look at the 5 core competencies of social emotional learning. First, we have self-awareness. And self-awareness is where we want students to recognize their own emotions, thoughts, and their values. Self-management. We want students to be able to effectively manage their stress, control their impulses, and motivate themselves. Another core value, a core competency, is social awareness. We want our students to be able to empathize with others, including those with diverse backgrounds and cultures. Relationship skills. We want our students to maintain healthy relationships with others, including communicating clearly, listening well, and cooperating with others. And then finally, responsible decision making, making good choices about their personal behavior and well being for themselves and others. So let's take a minute to talk about what social emotional learning is not. It's not a feel good activity. It's not psychotherapy. It's not a backhanded attempt to parent children. It's not a substitute for core instruction. What it is an extra dimension to education that focuses on improving communication, cooperation, and decision making. Social emotional learning is woven into the entire school day. So let's take a moment to look at the third and fourth grade social emotional lessons. So these lessons were created in the spirit of a toolkit so that an educator could go into the lessons and choose lessons and activities that best fit their situation. So in the toolkit, you'll find a variety of lessons that can be used on the first 20 days. We believe that social emotional learning is not just one more thing to layer into the school day, but that social emotional learning is infused throughout the day. It is our hope that you would find this toolkit useful and a resource for incorporating social emotional learning in your everyday practice. The lessons, the link to the website will go live tomorrow, August 6th. And so my colleague Robin is going to put a copy of the link to the website in the chat so that you can copy it and save it for later so you can access the website easily. So let's take a peek into our third and fourth grade lessons. So the first page of the lesson toolkit contains background information about social emotional learning. And as you enter the toolkit is organized around the 5 key aspects of social emotional learning. And you can see that there at the top in green. This particular snippet we are looking at comes from the self-management strategy lesson in the toolkit. Each strategy lesson has resources. So each of the components is accompanied by a list of hyperlinked resources that can be included to support the lessons or used to build your background knowledge in terms of planning what's appropriate for your students. Included in the resource section are hyperlinks to read aloud options. So I'm going to take a moment to show you. I'm going to go to the lesson so that I can show you what I mean. So here we are in the lesson, in our strategy lessons under self-awareness. And on the resource side, here are your read aloud options. And if you click on the read aloud options, it will take you to a document that lists all of the picture books, all of the literature that is in these lessons. It takes you to a resource that gives you a summary of each of the books. So these lessons intended as a toolkit are not, even though there's a book listed there to use in the lesson is general in that you can use any of these read aloud options to teach the lesson. So there's lots of choice embedded in the toolkit. So here's an example of a self-management strategy lesson. So each lesson is organized with an interactive read aloud first, the title of the book. The picture of the book is hyperlinked to the document that gives you a summary of the book, just in case you're not familiar with the book that's listed there. It gives you a discussion and then a reflection activity. This particular lesson is focused on self-talk and the voice you hear in your head. So connected to this lesson, there's also a hyperlink that takes you to more information about positive affirmations for students. So if you can't think of any on your own, you can always click the hyperlink, which will take you to more affirmations. And then included in every lesson, there's a reflection activity. We've included some additional websites here for you. We've included links to the Center for Social and Emotional Foundations for Early Learning websites. There's also a link here for the South Carolina Remote Learning website. And so at this time, I'm going to check in on the chat and see if there are any questions. Feel free to ask, unmute your mic and ask if you have questions. Wendy or Robin, can you help me with that? I can't see the chat.
Yeah, I don't see. Hi.
Go ahead, Robin. Go ahead. You're good.
I don't see any questions at this time, but I see a lot of positive comments, especially regarding all the choice and options for teachers. I think that's been a big aha for me, was just how much they appreciate having lots of different books to choose from and then access to those links and websites.
Thank you, Robin. So if there aren't any questions or additional comments at this time, I'd like to just share our contact information, our director, Dr. Quincy Moore, and our team lead, Marie Gibbons. And here is their contact information if you have additional questions. So at this time, we're going to stop recording. And I'm going to say just thank you very much for joining us.
Sonia,
Have a great afternoon.
I think you have a question.
I can't